The Holy Gospel according to John, the 14th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus is speaking with his disciples. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you know my Father also. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. And Jesus said to him, Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, Show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact, will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If in my name you ask me for anything, I will do it. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. In your lifetime, who has asked you to do something that you were sure you could not do? Perhaps it was a parent, or a teacher, or a coach, or a pastor who asked you to take something on. They expressed confidence in you, but you just were not sure you could do that. For me, it does not take long to come up with a list. In fact, a list of about 10 people who have at one time or another, and quite frankly, that's probably just the beginning of the list. Those were the low-hanging fruit, the easy ones to find, where they asked me to do something and I was pretty confident that I was not equipped to do it. I was pretty sure that there was no way I could do what they were asking him to do. Saying yes to that invitation shifted my self-understanding, and in many cases even shifted my skill set. Responding to these invitations, these calls with a yes, changes everything. So back to the question. For you, have you come up with at least one person who's asked you to do something? Something that you were pretty sure, pretty confident you could not do. What did you feel? Today, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and the situation is that they are gathered together for that supper before the Passover. And he is offering them final instruction And by this time in the conversation, and by the time in the instruction, several things have already happened. Jesus, you may recall, took off his robe, tied a towel around his waist. He knelt down and he washed the feet of his disciples. And he told them that they do not understand what he is doing to them, but they will. And he went on to talk about a new commandment, to love one another. That such love looks like service. To become servants, even slaves to one another. It may even, he goes on to say, mean laying down one's life for another. Jesus has also turned to Judas and dispatched him to go do what he was going to do. Peter has asserted that he will stay with Jesus no matter what. And Jesus has informed him that even the rock, Peter, will be crushed, denying Jesus before the cock crows. Jesus is laying out a mission for these disciples, and that mission involves the reality of love enacted, embodied in service. That mission also deals with the reality of betrayal and even death. That mission includes the crushing experiences that can bring denial. With this as the backdrop, Jesus speaks what we hear today. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I can only imagine what I might be feeling hearing that, what I would be thinking right about now as Jesus is saying these things. It goes something like, what? With all of that, do not let my heart be troubled? What Jesus does next is invite his disciples into a more expansive understanding of relationship. Believe, indeed, trust in God and in me, he says. I am opening, I am creating, I am preparing a space for you to do what you need to do. I am preparing a place for you to dwell. Now, oftentimes the faithful understand this place that Jesus is promising to prepare as some far-off place, far off in time, far off in space. What if Jesus is going ahead to prepare a place for disciples to dwell fully, a place that is precisely in this life, in this time? Perhaps the going ahead and the preparation is about opening a space where disciples can do all that Jesus is calling them to do. Love one another. Respond faithfully in times of betrayal and denial. Love the world as the Father, indeed as Jesus has loved the world. But of course, the disciples struggle with this. First Thomas, then Philip, they ask questions. Thomas's question leads Jesus to assert that when the disciples know him, they know all that they need to know. They know the way, they know the truth, they know life. You don't need anything else. And where one sees and experiences truth and life, they know the way. In these we meet Jesus. Philip, though, just cannot wrap his head around it. Show us the Father and we will believe. But the truth is, Jesus tells them, when you know me, you know the Father. Just as when you know me, you know love. You know truth. You know life. You know the way. But this is where Jesus moves beyond statements and invites his disciples to pay attention to the evidence. Look at the works. Do they embody love? Do they embody reconciliation? Do they embody life? Believe because of the works themselves. If you cannot believe what I'm telling you, he says. And then it comes. Remember that question? Who has asked you to do something that you were sure you could not do? Jesus has been showing them, telling them, embodying for them, teaching them and us how to live in that space, that dwelling place where they too, as disciples, embody reconciliation, embody love, embody life. And here he makes it explicit. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes, the one who trusts in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact, will do greater works than these. This is a mission of inclusion, of welcome for all people. It is big. These disciples, indeed you and I, are all called to live into the fullness of the relationship that Jesus and the Father have called us to live. It may feel bewilderingly impossible. It may bring troubled hearts. It may bring fear. But believing in God, believing in Jesus, trusting in that relationship will also tend to align you and me, align the disciples with God's desire, with God's will. That will is to love the world that too often rejects, denies, betrays God. That will is to work forgiveness, to work reconciliation, to work life for all creation. That will is to serve all people, following the example of Jesus, the Christ. And when disciples are so aligned with God's desire, with God's will, God's desire will be the disciples' desire. In that, Jesus can assert, if in my name you ask for anything, I will do it. This is an amazing promise of relationship that propels, indeed compels, all disciples into lives of service, love, reconciliation, and life. And Jesus says to you, you can do it.